name is Dean Vassy. You can find me on X at hashtag Kangas, Instagram hashtag Kangaroos Podcast. Today, I only have the one guest. Mark couldn't be with us tonight, unfortunately. Jesse, welcome back to the show. And not a bad way to finish off the pre-season, mate. Still a little bit of work to go, but outside of a 10-minute period in the second quarter, I thought we pretty much dominated the game. How did you see it?
Oh, look, spot on. I felt like it went exactly as you just described it. It was just that 10-minute period in the second quarter that we really didn't know what we were doing. We were saying before we joined Ebb, the most impressive thing for me on the day was the fact that halfway through the second quarter, we were able to change up how we were playing and play a real keepings off game, which impressed me. The fact that we were able to shift up in game, it showed a level of maturity, I thought. For the most part, in terms of the missing, we've been pretty much the most accurate side in the comp over the last few years. So you're not going to look too much into the missing. It is what it is. There was definitely some things we need to see improvement from still. But overall, really happy with, what we put out there. I think it's a good base to build from, and it makes me a lot more confident. I don't know if that's a good thing, but it makes me a lot more confident going into the Doggies game.
No, look, I mean, in previous years, that 10-minute period, we conceded 4 goals quite quickly. And going against the Breeze, I think West Coast hit the front at that stage. Generally, led in previous years anyway, what I've noticed, it's led to 7, 8, 9 goals in a row, and it's almost blown the game right out of the water. It's probably showing a little bit of a few signs of maturity, like you mentioned off air before. There's shown a few signs of maturity that we can get the game slowly back on our terms, and maybe getting these leaders into the club like Darling, a few others. Luke Parker obviously wasn't there, but Caleb Daniel, just steadying the ship a little bit, has already had a profound effect, even though it is only pre-season.
Oh, 100%. How impressive were the leaders, though, that were out there? I mean, in terms of Darling and Daniel, they did exactly, Daniel did exactly as I, thought he would do, and Darling looked like Wayne Carey. So, which took me by. That is the biggest, him going out there and doing what he did after some of the reports I heard this preseason about how he was running, etc. That might be the biggest surprise since Tristan Jerry decided to learn how to play football. So it's pretty incredible what they were able to do out there, and I think that definitely helped. 100%, it definitely helped. There were some sloppy mistakes towards the end. I'm mindful it was also hot. I mean, it was high 20s. Not normal conditions for this time of year. So having those games it's probably pretty good for us. In terms of playing 2 hot games. It was funny. I was listening to, there's a Supercoach podcast that I listened to, and it's got some really good guys on there. And I was listening to it today, and they were talking about the difference between Supercoach scores in preseason games versus regular games, and how you have to be careful because they're generally freer flowing. Wingers look a lot better in these type of games because it's freer flowing, and what type of personnel. And they got to reviewing the North Melbourne West Coast game, and they said that was their favourite game of the round because it was played like a normal AFL game. They said both teams actually tried to win. They tried different things, but they tried to win, and it was very contested. The midfielders were the ones getting most of the scoring. It was very much like a normal game. That's what it felt like to me running it. It felt. I watched some of the other games, and it was a bit nothing. Well, this felt like 2 teams who actually wanted a good hit out, and it was a bit of spice out there. It was good spice. There was nothing untoward. They were having a bit of a laugh about it, so that's good. But yeah, I think it was a really good hit out to have going into a game against the Dogs.
No, we'll talk about the game style. What did you make of the possession sort of based game styles? It was a bit different to the first preseason game. I think we had 110 more possessions than the Eagles did during the course of the game. Is this something that's a little bit more sustainable, you think?
Oh, 100% more sustainable than last week. But yeah, we can't play run and gun. Not like that. If you look how we scored our goals in the first quarter, look, to be fair, it is getting a balance between the two, and we'll learn it. Sometimes on the weekend, I felt like they chipped it too much around the perimeter and then ended up bombing it in anyway. And that didn't really work. But I much prefer them actually doing that and being methodical about it, even if you screw it up at the end, as opposed to just running gunning, bombing, because we know that doesn't work.
Mm.
So that's a game style I could get around. That's a game style that I could absolutely get around. It was a lot more like the game style we had middle of last year, where we actually.
Yeah,
It was
very
almost
similar.
like, it's almost like they tested last week. Have we improved on the run gun? Saw the output, and Clarko's pulled the pin and said, "No, that's it. I'm not going through another preseason of another 8-10 rounds of this. We're going straight back to the contested style, albeit a lot more methodical." So there's elements of, I think, what they want to introduce. There's almost elements of the Hawthorn game style, a lot of short kicking and stuff. Yeah, but it was a very contested game style. Like you said, the midfielders were really the main show, and they had some pretty high numbers, including the ruckman. I think my ruckman from both sides had some pretty good champion data points. So, yeah, I thought it was a good game style. I really liked it.
No, it's something that's a bit more sustainable as well. Like teams can work, and especially us. If we turn it over trying to play a run and gun, it goes the other way. We've got no chance of defending that as well. It's going to lead to big scores. This is more defendable as well. So, it was interesting talking to Xavier Clark after the game, and he's talking about the balance, trying to get the defense and offense. A little bit better, more in balance. We just got to work out a little bit better when to go a little bit faster and when to go a little bit slower. Because there were periods of the game where we got it to about 60 or 70 out and we just slowed it down too much. And then West Coast were able to drop back and then we go to long bomb. And Mitch McGovern just picked us off far too often, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, he had a massive amount of intercepts. So did Harry Edwards, is that his name?
Yeah, Edwards, he's a good player.
I like the look of him. Look, there were definitely a lot of times where we just didn't need to do what we did in terms of bombing it. It was a bit easy. But, I think the best way of saying it is it's a much more sustainable brand of football. And I think it shows, a level of maturity that we haven't had previously. Having the leaders out there makes a big difference. Caleb Daniel coming off the half-back line gives us an outlet. Ironically, there was a few times when they didn't pass to him and then they just hack kicked it forward, and I'm just like, oh, he's just there. Give it to him. He
gets ignored a bit, doesn't he?
What are they doing? Just give him the bloody ball. He doesn't miss a kick. His kicking is absolutely absurd. I mean, what did he still got the ball, 26 times?
26 times, one turnover, 89% disposal efficiency.
Oh, that's incredible numbers. The only one who's probably there's only one person in the team who's a better kick, and that surprises me that they're a better kick. I knew they were good with disposal, but Caleb Daniel is the benchmark, and I think there was one other bloke out there who's some of his kicks that he did were just absurd.
Yeah, I mean, between the two of them, they probably gave us all the scoring shots for the game, to be honest with you. I'm trying to remember the last time we had a player outside of those two that were even close to being that highly skilled with foot, especially Caleb Daniel out of the back half, Jesse. I haven't seen anyone like him. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a player that's been that highly skilled by foot.
What's an interesting one is, so he only had the 5 score involvements, Caleb Daniel. So probably that's because he's playing deeper and then getting the ball to someone, and then it's passing hands a fair few times. So then he doesn't count as being in the score involvement, as opposed to Sheasel, who had it 9 times. So but I mean, irrelevant. What they were able to do was absolutely fantastic. Their disposal was really, really clean. There was a few surprise packets. There was some people in there who I've been a little bit off, and I was really, really impressed with how they went about it.
Oh, definitely. We'll stick with the back line because that's probably been an interesting talking point over probably the last 24 hours or so. Aidan Corr had a pretty ordinary second quarter there against Waterman. Conceded a couple of goals, gave one away with a handball that went straight to the opposition. He is prone to these types of quarters, Jesse. This isn't a one-off, but I guess he's had a bit of an interrupted pre-season. So, there's an excuse there for him.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to criticise him too much. We saw what he was able to do last year, and he was, pretty impressive in a lot of the games. You got to remember as well. We talked about it. I think this was the second week that we've played the three key defenders together. That they've played together, so they're going to take a while to learn. But yes, I think they persisted a little bit too long with him on Waterman, as in they were playing him as the key defender almost, and then Griffin Logue as the second, which I thought was a little bit odd. There's a part of me that says, well, Logue is, younger, and he's probably going to be more agile. So, look, we all know that that's going to be a bit of a talking point in terms of what they do, and especially round one. I mean, you're going to end up with, well, at least Norton and Darcy. So that's two really tall players. So it's going to be interesting what mix that we decide to go with. And then, the Dogs actually looked pretty good against the Hawks.
They did, even with a few players missing. We'll talk about them a little bit later. Another player that went into the halfback flank, Finn O'Sullivan, second half, 7 intercept possessions, 9 possessions all up. Looked a natural out there. Might be moving into the Harry Sheezel, Cobby McKercher role off halfback this year.
It was funny. I mean, in the first half, they really were keen on him, playing on that wing position. And I thought he was pretty good, but, didn't get a lot of the ball.
Did,
but did some nice things. And then, second half, they thought, well, let's put you in a bit of a different position, put you down the back. It was very different how he went about it compared to a Sheezel McKercher. And I think that's because he can actually, he's a very good marker of the ball. He reads the ball well. He's a great kick. Like, all of that's the same. But the point of difference for him is he can take a big mark. I think he had, what did he have? He had 9 intercept possessions, which was equal with Harry Edwards.
It's pretty good.
Like, that's incredible. And that's 9 when he didn't play the whole game down there. So, I liked him down there because he's tall. He's able to take a mark. It means that he's not going to, it means he can contest the ball. So I really liked him down there. I thought it was good. What I don't think they have worked out yet is McKercher's role, and what makes sense because he's not accumulating at the moment, and I don't think we're using him in a damaging enough fashion. So I would like to see them probably alter that up a bit. Maybe what they do is 50% of the game McKercher comes off the halfback line, 50% of the time O'Sullivan does. When Daniel's resting, maybe both of them, and then the other one goes up to the wing. That way you're getting a bit of both from them. I think that's probably the way to go because at the moment they're playing McKercher a little bit on the half forward line, and I just don't see how that's going to work once you bring Simpkin and Parker back into the team. So I'd be playing him half off the half back line and then half off the wing.
I'm surprised he hasn't. I don't think he's played a minute on the wing. To be honest with you, they seem to keep persisting with him as his high half forward. He got 20 odd touches, and he looked a little better this week than he did the first week. He's settling into his new role. I guess it's maybe they're just going to trial him there and see how he goes, Jesse. I'm not too sure because
I mean,
I'd still like to see him push up on a wing.
Yeah, I completely agree because you want him delivering, and I think he's getting lost a little bit. Because I mean, what was his disposal efficiency?
24 disposals, but his disposal efficiency was like 60 odd %.
Yeah, it was pretty low from memory, which is a bit which we know is unusual because he's generally a pretty good disposer of the ball. So maybe that's just him being in a position where he's got defenders running at him, or he's having to contend with defenders. Thus, his disposals not as clean. While when he comes off the half back line, he's got time to run and gun. Looks like he's tempered his aggression a little bit in terms of how he's running with the ball. So look, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it is. We'll stay with the midfield, and it felt like more of a settled balance in there this week. I think Sheezel at 16 CBAs, LDU 16 CBAs, Phillips 19, Powell 19, Sherry 19. We had top 5 possession getters on the ground. Were you happy with how the midfield balanced? It seemed like, in the first week, it was just rotating everyone through there. It was a different mix in each centre bounce, but this week it felt a lot more settled.
I agree. I think it was a lot more settled. Because if you look at it from a clearance perspective, I mean, it was a good mix in terms of centre clearances.
Pretty even.
Yeah, if you go from just a pure clearance perspective, again, you've got, Shees was 7, Cherry with 5. McKercher had 4 still, so he's impacting the contest when it's out and about. And Phillips had the 3. So I thought it was a much better balance in terms of the midfield. I liked LDU resting forward at times because he still had a good impact. That goal was ridiculous, but he still had a really good impact, even though he was, playing down forward a little bit. So I like that because he's probably the most dangerous other than Cheezel in the forward line, just with his explosive ability to get around the defenders. So, look, I think it was a much better mix, but hey, we're about to add 2 more midfielders next game. So that's going to be really intriguing.
Yeah, we'll talk about that soon. Now, with Harry Sheezel, it felt like an 80-20 midfield forward split, which I kind of like, Jesse. 36 touches, 11 contested, 24 uncontested, only the 1 turnover, 9 scoring involvements, 7 clearances, 6 inside 50s, plus a beautiful goal. I mean, what more can you say about this bloke? I think we just got to play him in that split of 80-20 midfield to forward, to be honest with you, Jesse. He needs the ball in his hands.
Yeah, look, I
at the moment we do.
Yeah, spot on. Long term, I would rather it be like 70-30 with the 70 being down forward because I just think that he could be someone who's that Toby Green-esque player and be able to dominate and kick absolute bags of goals. But you are right. Unfortunately, at the moment, he is the cleanest disposer of the ball in the team by a mile. And you need the ball in his hands. And we saw what he can do with the ball in his hands. I mean, it was absolute gold. He was doing kicks where he was running and he kicked it and it went sideways with this dinky kick to a player. And that kick that he did to O'Sullivan through, we haven't kicked a ball that well in
ever.
I don't know when the last time we kicked a ball that good was because that was, that was perfect. Just went straight to him, and he,
to his advantage too. Like it wasn't like split the pass; it was to his advantage. He could play on and kick it himself.
It was incredible, wasn't it? It's been a long time since we've seen it kick that good. So he just if he can do that, I mean, if he can do that in the real season and do that, regularly, he's going to be close to the best player in the comp.
Look, he's not far away, to be honest with you. I think he could pretty much be in the top 3 at least by the end of this year.
Great.
It's just unfortunate that we've been a poor team.
Yeah, so it means he gets the poor club tax.
Of course.
Yeah, you have to be absolutely outstanding. I mean, if you think of good players and bad clubs, Ablett, etc., but you've already got, people seeing that. Everyone already knows you're a household name, and that helps. So because people notice more what you're doing. But he there's not much you can say, is there? He's just an absolute freak.
Seems like in the midfield, I think Will Phillips. Now I know we're going to add Simpkin and Luke Parker to the mix, but I would almost think he's pretty much a lock for round 1. They seem to be putting a lot of time and effort into him playing in midfield this year. He's looked quite good.
I've liked it. I've liked what he put out there. I mean, what are we talking about? He had the
19 CBAs.
Yeah, so
18
CBAs, 18 touches. He kicked it behind, but I mean, he had the 3 clearances, which is pretty decent. He had 6 tackles, which I mean, is that the most of any yet? That's the most of any player, any of our players, other than Tristan Jerry, who had 14.
I know, that was crazy.
That is absolutely crazy. So he had the most tackles for us. The main ones are, meters gained. He's still a little bit low on that. Time on ground, I think he was a bit lower from memory. I think he got that injury where he got the eyebrow split or something like that. So he only played 70-odd% game time.
Yeah, I think it was 71 or something.
Yeah, something like that. But in terms of centre clearances, look, it was a massive tick. I thought how he went about it. And even from his disposals, he had 5 score involvements. So that was pretty. I think it was right up there in terms of our midfielders. I think I think LDU and Shields were the only ones who had more. So he went 61%, with disposal efficiency, but he plays a very contested role. So you're always going to, give it up a little bit more when you're in a role like that. But yeah, he adds pressure. I think his disposal is generally really good. So yeah, look, I've been all about him since day one. So I like having him in the team.
Yeah, he's very good in close. Like he's able to release a handball to an outside player like an LDU Sheasel. He's a player that goes in there, gets it, and he releases a handball. Definitely not afraid to get his hands dirty. And I think he's probably not a bad replacement for George Wardlaw in that regard. I know the body's a little bit different in size, and he's not not going to hurt players with tackles or anything like that. But he will give you everything he has. So yeah,
Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah. He absolutely cares.
Yeah.
There's no mistake about that. He absolutely cares, and he goes all in. Yeah, look, I'm really keen to see what he can do this year, and he has a good opportunity of it because, I mean, look, it's going to be interesting what they do once they've got Parker and Simpkin available because we don't need to go on about that, but it is going to be interesting to see what they do.
Well, we might as well talk about it. Like they're obviously two players that are going to come back in. Simpkin, I think, might come in for Stevens, but yeah, which is fair enough. I didn't see enough from Dylan Stevens to suggest he should be a walk-up start in round one.
Which is funny, to be honest, because I actually think it was one of his better games for us, and which is it's an interesting one. He had the 14 disposals. I thought it looked a lot better than that, but it probably just wasn't enough. To the eye, I was more impressed with some of the stuff he did, but it's a bit of nothing. Like it's just getting the ball, it's accumulating. It's not really.
It doesn't hurt you. He's not going to damage you. Like
Nah.
Like if you get McKercher on the wing, he gets 14 touches. It's very different of the quality to Dylan Stevens.
Massively different. Yeah, massively different.
Do you think Simpkin could play on the wing? They've never really trialled him there. I mean,
they did once.
Yeah,
they did once under Noble or Shaw. It was when we won a game in Tassie at Launceston against the Hawks. We beat them by a bit from memory. I think Taron Thomas had an absolute blinder. He played off the wing. Yeah, and I think he had like 35 disposals.
Yeah, how come they haven't tried him there again, Jesse?
Wow.
Well, you're on the subject.
Wow. I mean, why have we not done a lot of things that we're, I'm pretty sure, yeah, I can distinctly remember it. So we have put him on there once, and I think the idea in the press conference was we want him to learn more positions. We want him to learn, to be a bit more of an outside player as well. But yeah, look, I think he is someone who could definitely play on the wing. It's just, do you want him disposing of the ball a lot? I guess, as long as he's not, he can't be any worse than Dylan Stevens. So
no, that's right. He's got a bit of pace. Yeah, look, his disposal can let him down, but he's got a good engine. He's very fit. I'd like to see him trialled there, or even a high half forward slot with McKercher. You can rotate those two during the course of a game. So yeah, look, it's going to be interesting to see how they integrate him in. Whether they put him straight in the guts with it and someone else has to come out, or whether they trial him as a high half forward like we seem to be with about 5 other players. Luke Parker, he probably might come in, and I don't know if he's going to get many CBAs early, Jesse. He might get a couple, but I think his role at the moment might be just as a leader out there and possibly similar to Swans, maybe in the forward pocket a little bit. Similar to maybe just taking Constance's spot.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
I don't know how to integrate him in it.
It's a tough one. I don't. Yeah, geez, there's too many midfielders.
Yeah, it's so imbalanced.
Yeah, it is, and as much as I love them and I want them all to be in there, and I don't want any of them to go out, at some stage for balance, they are going to have to bring different types of players in. Because, you just can't play all of them. Look, I hope they all learn and have other strings to their boats. That's what I hope for every single one of them. I found that game, by the way. It was 2022, no, 2021. Sorry, at York Park. We won by 7 points. Simpkin had 38 disposals.
Was that was Noble's first win? Was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
Cunnington had 37. Yeah, Taylor Garner, there's a name. 3 goals. Where are we?
He showed a bit. Had a lot of injuries.
Yeah, so that was the game. He played a lot on the wing that game, and it was I thought it was good, but then didn't really get another crack at it. We'll just put that down to Noble being Noble, I suppose. But yeah, look, they're all going to have to learn other strings to their bow. Look, as I said in the past, I don't have a massive concern with Simpkin down on the forward line because I actually think he's got some forward craft in terms of being able to get the ball.
Yeah.
Plus, he applies a lot of pressure. So I like him down there. It's just, yeah, good luck trying to fit all of them into the forward line because with the forward line we had on the weekend, who do you drop? Now, you said one name, and I think that is absolutely going to happen because they won't keep him and Robert Hansen Jr. I thought Robert Hansen Jr. had his best game for the club on the weekend. So, yeah, he did look good. Mark was right. Mark, you're listening, and yep, you were right. So, yeah, how do you fit them both in? It's going to be an interesting one. You probably do take Stevens out, but the fact that they played him for the whole game, I mean, that's an interesting one. But you probably take him out. Yeah, you probably take Constanti out, and then you rejig things a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. Maybe Simpkin plays in that forward 50 to start with, taking Costanti's role. Just on Costanti, now he seems like a good defensive player with very limited offensive potential right now. 3 touches and tried and battled, but he needs to do more than just offer the defensive pressure, doesn't he? Otherwise, he could just be another Kane Turner, Jesse. That's no disrespect to any of those blokes, but he needs to find that offensive side.
Oh, 100% he does. Yeah, 100% he does. He needs to do a lot more. I mean, what did he have? He wouldn't have had many disposals. 3.
3, yeah. 2 tackles.
Yeah, so that's just not going to get the job done. He needs to add some offensive stuff. I think there's a player there. I think there's attributes of a player there. It's just we've got to see what that develops into. But yeah, at this stage, you couldn't play him round 1 based on that. No. The trade-off is that, Robert Hansen Jr. also had 2 tackles, but he's, I wouldn't say he's overly defensively minded. He had 12. So it's an interesting one. He had 12 disposals, 0 goals, 0 behinds, laid the 2 tackles, had a clearance somehow. I don't know how that happened, but it's interesting. Yeah. But to the eye, it looked like a good game, I thought, from him.
2 goal assists. His skills are quite good.
Yeah.
He's very good by foot. He lowers his eyes. He doesn't bomb. I think he gave one to Zurha in the first quarter. And generally, he will hit a target. And that makes a difference, I guess.
Well, his disposal efficiency was, 91.7%?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty crazy. The only one with a higher one than him, not including Jacob Constanti, was Griffin Logue. So he went at a higher disposal rate than Harry Sheasel and Caleb Daniel. So you are right. He is pretty clean when he gets it. It's just about accumulating it and getting in the right spots. Yeah.
Would you say he's probably a lock for round 1?
Yeah. Which is interesting because I haven't been massive on him historically. But I have him in my team because they have to play a small. It adds a lot more pressure. We looked a lot better. I think one of the things in both games is that we looked pretty solid being able to keep the ball inside our forward 50 for the most part. So I was pretty impressed with that and our ability to do that. We don't want to lose that.
No, definitely not. So, yeah, I think Geordie Payne, I know I've mentioned him a million times, but I think he's got a balance of both. Like, he's got the Costanti defensive side, and I think he's got that offensive upside as well, but he just hasn't had a pre-season. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes into VFL early in the year because he could certainly push for a spot. Jack Darling, now we mentioned him before. The only criticism I have of him is his goal kicking at the moment, Jesse, providing a real target. He still has a football smarts. I mean, that first inside 50 mark, I think it was in the first minute of the game, and he knew how to protect the space in front of him when the ball came in. Also, a good second rucker option to relieve Cherry as well.
Yeah.
1 goal, 7 score involvements, 3 marks inside 50. He's looking
3
pretty good.
tackles.
He's looking pretty good, isn't he?
Well, he had 15 disposals, which is
Yeah, 15. Sorry,
yeah, 15 disposals, which is ridiculous. He kicked 1 goal, 3, but they were hard kicks. Probably one of them was she should have been 2-2. I'll give him that. So 2 of the kicks were right on 50, so a bit of a range, and 1 hit the posts. So I'll give him 2-2. Had a clearance. I don't know how that happened. I mean, he was in the ruck, but I didn't see him win a clearance.
No, I didn't see that.
He only got the 6 hitouts, but I mean, he looked solid in the ruck. He was contesting it and he was adding pressure. So even if he can chop Cherry out for 5 minutes a quarter, you would much rather him up there than a Nick Larkey. So I much rather him in there than Nick Larkey. I don't want to see Nick Larkey anywhere near it. Look, he played 78% game time as well, so he was looking fit. Yeah, look, what can I say? He was really, really impressive. Which surprised me a fair bit. He took, the 2 contested marks, which was second on our team after Larkey. We don't take a lot of contested marks.
No.
He had the 2 inside 50s. Funny enough, he had 4 free kicks, 4 and 3 against. But yeah, look, and he had 3 internet. That's what I wanted to talk about. He had 3 intercepts as well. So when he was rucking, he went back and he was able to take a few defensive marks. I did notice them on the weekend. And I thought that was pretty impressive. So if he can do that role, he's not going to play all year. Wow, God, I don't know. He played like that. If he can do that for the whole year, we'll win a lot of games, like a lot more games than probably I had as an expectation, because he makes Larkey a completely different player. Now, Larkey didn't have his best day. He kicked 1 goal, 2 himself. And Zurhaar didn't have his best day as well. But he makes them all very different players.
Yeah, well, what do you make of Zurhaar pre-season? He seems to be, I don't even know if he's second gear at the moment, to be honest with you, Jesse. He kicked a nice goal from 50
He had 5
out.
tackles.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised by
I don't remember, but I don't remember that happening. But it says he had 5 tackles on the stats, so he must have done more than I thought he did. Yeah, he's had a bit of a nothing pre-season. He kicked a really.
Are you concerned about him?
Yes, but I was before in terms of I don't see him as a lock. If you said to me, who are the players who are absolute lock, you've got no concerns with, he's not one of them. He's in the bucket of, you know what? If he doesn't play well, someone could take his spot.
Well, you got Eddie Ford sitting in the wings there, Jesse. I mean, he seems really keen to get that opportunity. But I mentioned this, I think it was last week with Eddie Ford. Even with Zane Dersmo, he's carrying a little bit of an injury. With these boys, it's just we've got too many midfielders at the moment, and they're getting squeezed out. Some of these players like Eddie Ford and Zane Dersmo, so you can only play a handful like a Paul Curtis, Cameron Zurhaar, and maybe 1 or 2 others, and the rest are high half forwards almost, Jesse.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Yeah, he didn't do enough for me this preseason. He's still in the team. He's in the round 1 team, absolutely. And he might be one of those players who just doesn't show up for the preseason because he doesn't care. That's not a great sign, but we know what we're kind of getting from him. I tend to think that. Look, I still think the flow-on effect is that he should have a much better year. There's no excuse for him not, because we've got Darling down there. We're taking a lot of the pressure. He's now getting the 3rd tall. There's no reason why he can't have a better year.
No, you wouldn't. You would have to think so. There's no more excuses anyway. Like, he's not getting the second best defender, like you said. He's not a big key target. So yeah, look, we'll see how we go. Generally, does start seasons pretty slow. He has in the past couple of years, and he sort of starts to get going the second half of the year. But we can't afford that anymore.
We can't.
We need like everyone to hit the ground running pretty much.
We need to absolutely explode out of the blocks and try, because the problem is we've got a pretty tough start to the year, and if we lose a few, if we lose a few games, the confidence is just going to go straight down.
and the belief goes out of the boys pretty quickly as well. You could sort of even sense it for periods on the weekend as well. So, got to try and get those wins early, especially playing the Bulldogs who are injured in Melbourne. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're not the same team they were a couple of years ago. That's for sure. So, I still think there's a cultural problem there. But even though Clayton Oliver is looking good, but Christian Petrarca did request a trade there for a period, and it won't take long for him to fall apart. I think so. Just a couple of bad losses, and they'll you probably still see a few cracks in them. So yeah, first couple of games of the year is still very important. Any other concerns for you? You mentioned Zerha, but any other players or any other concerns for you going into round one?
Just in general, just
Yeah,
across the team.
yeah.
Um,
What about forward 50 entries? Are you still worried about
yeah,
that?
I am. I am still worried about the inside forward 50s. Look, as I said before, I like the fact that it's methodical and that they're not just bombing it all the time. But even when they're being methodical, they're not quick at. It's like they slow down and go, right, I'm not just going to bomb this. But then they don't go quick enough and they miss an obvious target. That's something we've got to work on. That worries me a little bit. Oh, look, my biggest concern, and I've been working through what my team would look like, is still the small defenders. That is my biggest concern in the team because I think that that's the biggest liability in our team as it stands right now.
Okay.
If I think about, you know, what do you think is our biggest weakness in the team right now? I still think it's the back line, and I'm not sold on it being purely the talls. I think it's the smalls as well.
Yeah, I mean, probably the last 3 or 4 years, we've struggled against small forwards from the opposition. I mean, Isaiah Pickett's torn us a new one each time he's played us. But even last week, an unknown by the name of Sharp from Melbourne kicked 3 or 4 goals. You've seen a few of those smalls get off the leash a little bit and share the goals for West Coast in that second quarter. I think it was Brockman, Ryan got on top of us. It was interesting to see Griffin Lowe playing Liam Ryan, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, like I thought Archer did a good job because they
Yeah,
didn't play him on a genuine pacey small, and I think we all know that's not him.
no, that's right.
But I thought he played really well. If you look at the Dogs for round one, so if you look at their goals against the Hawks, Lachlan McNeil kicked 4 goals, so he's obviously playing small forward role for them. Norton and Darcy kicked 6 goals between them, and then they only had one more, I think, outside of that. So they were, which was Sam Davison. So who's I believe is the kid they got for the Caleb Daniel pick, and he looks like a jet. He had 29 disposals. That's not, and I'm not. That's not buyer's remorse at all. It's just it shows the quality of the draft that they got a player later on, and that he was, he's a pretty handy player. So that's a win-win trade, I think. But yeah, look, they do have the one small in there, but for the most part, it's going to be the talls that challenge us in that game. The Melbourne game next up, there'll be no Pickett, which is good. That's going to massively help us. Fritsch, Archer did the job on last time. They're a bit lower on other smalls. You are right. They've got Sharp now.
I don't know if Spargo's coming back anytime soon, but I haven't seen him.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Interesting one.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the state of Spargo. Look, I am still, and I know I'm gonna harp on about it, but I am still massively concerned about Luke McDonald in this team. He does not add any value to me. He did something very simple on the weekend, and I think I muttered to myself, "That's the best thing he's done in 10 years." And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It's just I'm not sure what he adds to this side. I just don't understand why. What's he doing? What's he adding? Because he had the 12 disposals, he had 2 marks, 2 tackles. Like, is that really getting the job? Is that what you want from a defender? As in an experienced defender? Because
he gave away 6 free kicks last week as well, didn't he, against Melbourne, or 5 or 6 or something?
Yeah, he gave away a massive amount, which is a concern. How many did he give away this week? I probably just one. Just one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He doesn't do enough for me. I think he's still a defensive liability, and look, Tucker had an okay game in terms of he does accumulate it. I would much rather Tucker in the team than McDonald. I didn't mind what I saw from Bergman in the limited game time that he got. It's interesting they played him above Hardiman, so they obviously see him being further on than Hardiman. Yeah, I'm still worried about the small defenders. The midfield is good. It probably we need to get the mix right, like we talked about before, Sheasel's mix, etc. So, but in terms of and the forward line, there's a lot of it looks a lot more dangerous. We just need to kick straight, but that back line still worries me. It still worries me. There's a bit of work to be done there.
Yeah, I think that McNeil's not a bad player. He's always been from the fringes for the Bulldogs. He's been around for a few years. So yeah, look, he's going to be a challenge. Yeah, Dusty Tucker played first half on half-back line and then moved up to the wing in the second half when Finn O'Sullivan went to the half-back line just to trial that. So that might probably be something they do in round one. Well, we'll go to the Bulldogs in round one. A lot of injuries, and the Bont is out for 6 weeks. You're confident we can win that one, Jesse?
If we don't win that game, you might not hear from me for the rest of the year. One, I'm going with a friend who's a Dogs supporter, and he is insufferable at the best of times. So if we lose that, it's just it's going to do my head in. They just have so many injuries. I also jumped on us at $4, and so I've got a little bet down. Yeah, so I've got us at $4. Bet responsibly. If we don't win that, look, I understand they've still got 2 ridiculous, like Sam Darcy. In all honesty, I think I said this. I went to the Essendon the game they played against Essendon at Footscray. Sam Darcy, by the end of this year, could be the best player in the comp, and that's saying something when you've got players like Sheasel running around, Nick Dacos. I mean, Nick Dacos' 2 games, albeit one was against Richmond, who it was pretty much a training drill. Looks absurd as well. They rested him and he had 35 up until 3/4 time. But Sam Darcy does ridiculous things. He's just it's just the gift that keeps giving. I mean, they might even lose Jamara and they won't even bat an eyelid because they got Croft, who they got the year before last as well. So look, Norton and Darcy are going to challenge us. Darcy could have kicked 20 on us last time. Now we will have the 3 genuine defenders. They don't have 3 genuine tools. They might play someone, not sure.
They got Rory Lobb, haven't they? So he'll definitely play.
Yeah, but he'll play down back. Look, the other thing is that they're light on for key defenders. So we have an opportunity to score against them. It's just that I think that they have an opportunity to score against us. So we're going to have to dominate the midfield, and we've got a good chance given that Libba's pretty much the only experienced midfielder that they have.
It'll be interesting to see how they go with that mix. We'll preview that more next week when that comes up. That's pretty much all I have for you, Jesse. I think Patrick's come in and just sort of said evening. Any final thoughts, Jesse, before we talk more about the Bulldogs next week?
No, look. I think for most North fans, the first game was a massive worry. The second game has restored a bit of confidence. It would have been nice to have got the win, but I think it's held us in good stead. I'm a lot more confident going into the game than I was. So, look, there's some real signs there. I saw that, Pat. He's absolutely spot on. The biggest thing that worries me is, in my mind, we should win. On paper, we should win. But we've forgotten how to win. And that's a big thing when you've forgotten how to win. It makes you infinitely worse because you have no confidence. So that's why it's so important to get this first game, because if we can come out of that with a bit of confidence, and then I think we'll be much better and more competitive in the games afterwards, because we do have a tough start. Melbourne, Adelaide over in Adelaide, Carlton. It's going to be tough. So if we can win that first game and take a bit of confidence, we could nab a couple other games in the first half of the season.
No, definitely. I mean, I think the probably only game that concerns me in the first 4 rounds is probably Adelaide, because we generally don't play in Adelaide too well. We never have, really. So that's probably the only one that, I think, we've got no chance. The other 3 teams are there or thereabouts. I mean, they're pretty inconsistent, all of them, and they can be gotten at the right time. I mean, Carlton game Good Friday, we usually get screwed in that, Jesse. So we're probably
Yeah,
going
but I
to
remember last year we had Biggie and Pink as the two defenders. I dare say that we'll be in a much better state, assuming we have no injuries. Knock on wood. But if we can take those three defenders in against Harry Mackay, and Kurno's injured, isn't he? Or is he back?
He is injured, but I think
He'll
he'll be
probably be
right
back.
by
Yeah.
I think he'll be right by round one.
If we can take our three key defenders up against their two talls, I mean, we almost beat Carlton at the back end of last year.
Yeah, we played pretty well.
Yeah, that was probably that was the only game that I think that I looked at and thought we should have won that, because I think we should have won that. I think the umpires actually screwed us, and I joke about that a bit, but that was a game that I actually walked away from and thought we should have won that game, even more than the Collingwood one, ironically. So yeah, look, I think we'll be competitive if we can play like we did on the weekend. I think we've got a game style that will make us competitive. It's whether or not we can translate that into real wins.
No, that's exactly right. And yeah, I mean, belief is such a big thing.
That's huge.
And if you can sort of sense, like, if you've had a poor history like we have, losing every pretty much close game, or whenever a team gets a bit of a roll on where we can see 7, 8, 9 goals, you can sort of sense the belief goes out of the group. And we're certainly hoping with these experienced leaders we've brought in that they can steady the ship a bit for the next couple of years till we get that next generation coming through.
How many games do you think we can get? Daniel should play every game, but how many games do you reckon Parker and Darling can play?
You'd probably say 15 to 18.
Yeah, I was going to say the same.
Yeah, if you can get that out of them, I think you're doing pretty well. I think Parker's already been rested for the second pre-season game. They didn't want to let him travel to Perth. So
that's probably fair enough.
Yeah, of course. So it'll probably, I don't know, round 3 against Adelaide, they might just say, "Oh, look, just take a week off. We'll get someone else in." Depending how everything's going.
Spewing that Simpkin didn't get another game after his ridiculous form in the Indigenous All Stars. So
at least he got that game in, I guess.
Yeah. So it gives him some fitness going into the game. Yeah, he looked in ripping form. So hopefully that little niggle he had, and then he was sick, I think. So yeah, I'm hoping that going into round 1, if we fall into a position where they're dominating the midfield, we can chuck him in there, give a more experienced body a go, and he looks like he's in ripping form.
No, definitely. No, he looks ripped. He looked very fit in that game. So I think he looks like he's set to have a big year if he did play midfield, but I don't know how they're going to squeeze him in. So that'll be something the coaches have to work out. Anyways, Jesse, thanks so much for coming on. We'll chat next week and we can preview the Bulldogs game a little bit more.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for tuning in as well. I'll be back this week again. Not sure which day, but like, subscribe, give me a follow, and do all that fun stuff. Until then, bye for now, and go Roos. Well, thanks for coming on, mate. Yeah, interesting discussion. I don't know if you got an Instagram message.